Morning, everybody. Michelle is here on this Monday, October the 2nd, 2023. Whoa. When I think about what happened, the things that culminated a year ago, you know, and you'll be surprised, what can happen to you, and then you'll be more so surprised as to what it can do for you, how it can impact you, how it can influence your life, how it can cultivate your life, and everything in between. It's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility to be responsible, number one, and there's a lot of responsibility to be accountable. And sometimes you just gotta, sometimes you just gotta come out of it. And what I mean by come out of it, you just gotta let that ego go for a minute. You let your beliefs go, let your everything that you have culminated up to this point about who you think you are, and who you think, and what you think you're supposed to be doing, and this and that and the other. I told you in the beginning when I started this, it's about the evolution of the consciousness. It's about our consciousness. And I didn't really understood what that meant per se. But I knew that, because of the knowledge I was cultivating, and the knowledge I was contemplating, and the knowledge I used to, to go into certain states, and I'll get into that later, and then also to come into meditation, with a clear vision, a clear observation of as to, okay, what is really, really going on? How are we acting in such a way that's so counter to what I'm, in other words, it was just too many contradictions. The contradictions were, the contradictions were overwhelming. And it came to a point of, what's real? What is really, really going on? And so through my learning, I recognized that we're just not, first of all, we're not walking the talk. We're just smoke and mirrors. And we are, things have been, because of our lack of concentration and being aware and paying attention, we allow a whole lot of phenomena to create themselves artificially, and thus they kind of give us the illusion of what is really going on. All right, so I just put out a podcast. Check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. Evolution of the Consciousness, Love is Spoken Here. I have to break things down in stages, and that's what anybody does, right? When you're attempting to give people information, because if you give them too much, they drown in it, and it becomes wasteful. And like I said, they drown in it, and some are lost in it, meaning they are they have escaped a reality that that doesn't exist per se. So I put out a video a while ago as well about the events that were to culminate in 1998. If I'm not mistaken, 1998. Let me pull up something real quick. Okay, yeah. So I put out a video a while back, and I said, 1998 was a significant as well. It was a significant year, and certain events should have culminated throughout that time. And there was a reason. I know a lot of us were concerned about 1998, 1999, because we were concerned about the effects of what it would do to the year 2000. All of us were focused on that, the technology side of it. But we were not focused on the consciousness side of it and what that meant and how significant it could have been. Okay. There was something that was prophesied to happen in 1998, between 1998 and 2000. If certain events and certain, so we were supposed to come in sync by that time to be able to recognize and be prepared for an event. Okay. That was planned and prophesied for 2000. And this is, like I said, this is more on a consciousness based instead of technology. All of us were focused on the technology side of it. And none of us were paying attention to the consciousness side of it. Before any major event, before any major consciousness, cosmic event, you have to be prepared for it, right? So, and I remember back in 98, let me pull up something else. And everything is starting to come in. Everything is starting to make sense. Yep. So everything is starting to make sense. So 1998 to 2000, we were supposed to be preparing for a cosmic consciousness event, but instead we were more focused on the entertainment side of it, the technical side of it, and we dismissed the consciousness side of it. All right, stay with me. This is storytelling time. All right, storytelling time. The reason I say storytelling, because I need you, if you choose to contemplate on it and cultivate on it after you have suspended your ego and your beliefs and all that kind of stuff. Entertain yourself for a while. It's going to be under an hour. I think you deserve that. So anyway, 1998 was a significant event for, some reasons that I'll go into at some point as well, where certain things were supposed to happen if we had done our due diligence. And this was consciousness related, not a technical phenomenon. And so what that meant is there was something that, we were prepared to experience collectively. So it was around that time too, as a matter of fact, when I started receiving a lot of snapshots of dreams, and these dreams were not good. And on top of that, I was preparing myself to move into a major metropolitan city as well. And I kept getting all the signposts to say, oh no, don't go. But I kept dismissing it because I was at that time still trapped in my beliefs. I thought I was very arrogant, of course, cocky, and I thought I knew everything. Nobody gonna tell me nothing. That's how I was, how I operated. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna, I had that cockiness and that arrogance and that, wanting to prove that, that I am what I am, when in actuality I had no idea who I was. All right, we do that all the time. Nobody's gonna tell me what to do. You know how we are, how we get. I know what I'm doing. And this and that and the other. That kind of quick draw. On our responses and our tones and our sounds and contradictions. And how I told you your consciousness is like, okay, something's not adding up. So what was determined around that time is we were filled with contradictions. What the tones that were coming out of our mouths, the sounds that were coming out of our mouths did not match up here, because we were trapped in delusion and fantasy. In other words, we were creating things that did not even exist. We were operating off of fantasy, and more so delusion, and more so consciousness damage. Okay, psyche damage. Psyche is also known as the soul, But again, don't get too trapped up on words. Just see if you can kind of ride with me on the visual, because I'm attempting to I am attempting to recreate it visually. So, what was determined and what was known was we were not walking the talk, and we were in complete denial, almost at an acute level, especially those that were so-called in the pyramid of management. And then, it was trickling down to us, because we were told, pay attention to the authorities. The leadership was the authority. Don't ask questions. Okay, and we were telling our kids, don't ask questions of adults, even though as kids, they're close to logical and reasonable than any adult ever will be. Children are. So there was a lot of opportunities missed to, ask appropriate questions. Instead, we were told to listen to somebody else, third parties. The third parties know, whether it's our pastors, our preachers, whether it's our leaders, whether it's our governmental leaders, our county leaders. We were paying attention to all of that. And we were, as an individual, being dismissed. Okay, nope, somebody else knows more than you. You go, in other words, you have a representative to represent you instead of you representing yourself. So what was determined in 1998 is we were at an acute level of delusion, meaning we were not at a threshold, even though our tones and sounds may have given the illusion of such. So for example, if I came to you and said, do you, in other words, we attempted to compensate for our naivete, our ignorance is or to give it. We were attempting to bestow ourselves as more than we were. In other words, taking on more than we can handle. How about that? And we had been doing that for so long, it became true. It became the truth, even though it was delusion. It didn't exist. It was all here in your thoughts. It wasn't a reality, so to speak. So that's why we all got trapped in entertainment and fantasy. And so we used to affix ourselves to the television set. I know that because I did that. I, at one point, got myself addicted to television programming. And it's a programming, it's called programming for a reason. I was stuck into that certain, I was, a lot of people like I was doing the same thing like other people. I was building my life around, okay, I need to be home by the time blah, blah, blah comes on because and then we started recording stuff. My dad even got caught up in, soap operas. It started out, with my mom watching it and watching it. But my dad, in order for my dad, sometimes you got to do that now. Sometimes you got to sit down and watch some boring ass Lifetime movies because that does build intimacy, by the way. Sharing in that experience, as long as you know it's not real, it's a delusion. And I think my dad knew that. My dad knew it was just entertaining, and he enjoyed watching it with my mom. Okay. And then he started enjoying it, watching it on his own. That's okay. He knew when to let that go and go mow the lawn. He knew when to let that go and go take care of stuff outside. All right. He didn't just sit in the house all day, playing video games. Okay. He didn't sit in the house all day in fantasies, creating fantasies and delusions and lacking human interaction up until almost, up until a time where he became too ill to be hanging out as such. He used to go to his little favorite hangout and be with his boys, be with his like-mindedness, in this little bar downtown, and he enjoyed it. Because I told you, I put out a video. I went in there one day to find him and all of that, and it was just smoke filled. And then I find him sitting over there in the corner, and he was happy. He usually had one drink, maybe two, and he was just happy to sit there and taking in all that. And there was a lot of people in there. The music was playing, people were dancing. That is how he was socializing, and he loved that. So it was determined in 1998-ish, that we were, so in other words, we would say we want peace, but no, in our thoughts we wanted war. Okay, we would say we want love, but in our thoughts we had hatred, which is self-hatred. In other words, we were contradicting the energy, and no one understood why. And I'll let you know who no one was at another time. But it just did, and because the results. Okay, if I say I want peace, but I'm constantly in war, there's a disconnect. There's a contradiction. Resolve it. And usually it's right here in our thoughts. In other words, we conjured up all of this, and just imagine how much force that is in a collective. When all of us are doing all of this spinning, and not understanding our swinging waves of energy and how we are affecting the energy of everybody. If we had a small enough population of people, it would have been recognized as such. But we were starting to get massively overpopulated back in the I think the 1600s, if we're honest, and if historians were honest about certain phenomena. But who knows if all that stuff still even exists to be considered. A lot of stuff has been buried. A lot of things are being destroyed purposely. A lot of things, So it was determined, finally, after all that time, that it wasn't what we were saying. It was more so in our actions and behaviors. And anybody knows, if you after you know something, you realize it all starts in the thoughts. The thoughts started, which culminate the behavior. It's not the other way around. The thoughts culminated, get the ball rolling, so to speak. But on top of that, the thoughts have an impact from the energy as well. There's a connection. The impulses of the environment. And I point up a lot because, that's how I do. I just kind of span looking up. But it can be right in front of you. It can be right beside you. And it can be behind you. It's all energy. Keep that in mind. So, because of our delusion and hallucination and contradictions, what was supposed to culminate, that had to be suspended. And in other words, it was something that was prophesied to happen, planned to happen, but did not. And that's what warnings are. Warnings are a warning, but sometimes warnings are not. It's not necessarily a warning, but remember, it's positive and negative. Warnings are pointed out for a reason, because warnings have more can interfere. In other words, it ought to have been a positive event, but thus it was determined it would have been catastrophic if it had happened. How about that? Because it was determined that there were hidden hands of negativity perpetuating one thing but doing something behind the scenes. So in other words, if I say, and I learned this in a small way too. I told you about my mom. She used to say things, and I realized I had to research what she was telling me. She was teaching me, whether she knew it or not. In other words, I had to research what she was telling me first before I acted, because I had been made a fool too many other times. Okay? So, and that's what had to happen. There had to be more in-depth research. So that's why, because I say something, what are my actions? So that means, what are my actions and behaviors? And then most importantly, what are my results? Okay, so I'm going to stop that right now. I'm going to have a lot more to say, of course, and a lot more to present, and in a way of how we're missing opportunities, and we miss major opportunities. And when things are reviewed, remember I told you we have a planetary storage bank. I'll come back to that as well. Once things are reviewed in the distant future by whomever, it's going to illustrate how and why either we wiped ourselves out, or we completely made the planet where life cannot be sustained, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so I'm going to send peace and love all over the stars and moon and mountains. Enjoy your day, enjoy your others, be gentle, spread universal love. Okay, because that's all we have, right? It's each other. And trust me, I'll be back.